The sirens had already stopped wailing. On the rain-slicked avenue, the wreckage still smoked, a shattered black limousine, its front caved in against a streetlight. Glass littered the asphalt like fallen stars, and the crowd that had gathered whispered in uneasy half-sentences. Inside the broken car, Adrian Kane, the ruthless CEO of Kane Global, the man who ruled boardrooms with nothing more than a cold stare, lay motionless. His shirt was torn, his chest barely rising. The paramedics had tried. The oxygen mask, the shocks, the injections. But when the monitor flatlined again, they exchanged grim glances. "Time of death?" one muttered. "Wait," said another, but his voice held no conviction. Their hands trembled as they unplugged machines and began packing away equipment. The murmurs of the crowd rose into a cruel chorus. The mighty CEO can't even buy life with all his money. He had enemies. Maybe this is justice. Let him go. He was never one of us. No one stepped forward. Not his bodyguards, who hovered like shadows but dared not touch him. Not his assistants, frozen in their designer suits, afraid to take responsibility. Adrian Kane, billionaire, kingmaker, destroyer of rivals, lay abandoned, a dying man, already written off as dead. And then, a figure moved. From the edge of the crowd, half hidden by a drenched hoodie and bare feet on cold pavement, a girl pushed through. Her face was pale from hunger, her hair matted from weeks of sleeping under bridges, but her eyes burned with something no one else carried tonight: defiance. "Get out of my way," she snapped, forcing past the stunned paramedic. "Miss, he's gone." "Don't. I said move." Her voice cracked like thunder. Silence fell. Even the rain seemed to pause as she knelt beside the body. Her hands shook as she pressed them against his chest. Cold. Too cold. "No," she whispered. "Not like this. Not while you're still breathing somewhere in there." The medics exchanged uneasy looks. "We tried everything. He lost too much blood. There's nothing more." "Then take mine," she cut in. Heads turned. The crowd gasped. The bodyguards looked as if she had lost her mind. "You can't just..." But she was already tearing at her sleeve with her teeth, exposing a thin, scarred arm. "You need blood," she demanded. "Fine. Take mine." "I'm O-negative." The paramedic froze. That was universal. "It's risky. You're not screened. You could." "I don't care." Her voice broke, raw and desperate. "He doesn't deserve to die like a stray dog on the street while all of you watch." The sharp edge of her words cut through the onlookers' shame. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then, reluctantly, one medic pulled out a kit. "If you're sure." "I am." They connected the line. Her blood began to flow. Drop by drop, her life for his. She clenched her jaw against the weakness spreading through her veins. Her vision blurred, but she kept her eyes fixed on Adrian's pale face. "Don't you dare give up," she whispered, leaning close. "I don't even know your name, but you're not allowed to leave me like this. If I can still fight, so can you." A minute passed. Then another. The monitor remained stubbornly flat. Her strength wavered. Darkness tugged at the edges of her mind. And then, beep. A single sound, sharp and undeniable. Heads snapped toward the machine. Beep, beep. The line climbed, jagged and real. Adrian's chest rose with a shudder. His lips parted with the first ragged gasp of returning life. The crowd erupted. Shock, fear, awe. Some crossed themselves. Others muttered of miracles. But she only sagged forward, barely conscious, her forehead resting against his shoulder. His eyes fluttered open just a crack. Gray, storm-cold, unfocused until they landed on her face. A stranger's face, streaked with rain and exhaustion, eyes burning with stubborn fire. For 1 second, the ruthless CEO saw her. Not the crowd. Not his empire. Just her. Her blood in his veins. And then the world tilted, and both of them sank into darkness together. The antiseptic sting of the hospital air nearly choked her. Mai's eyelids fluttered open, heavy as stone. She was lying on a stiff cot in the corner of the emergency wing, and 4 dripping slowly into her vein. Her arm throbbed where the blood had been drawn. Fragments of memory cut through the haze. The crash, his lifeless body, the paramedics turning away, her blood flowing into his veins, his chest rising again. She shot upright. Where is he? Through the glass partition, she saw him. Adrian Kane, stretched on a private bed, monitors now alive with steady rhythms. His skin had color again. His chest lifted with each breath. Alive. Because of her. And yet the room around him wasn't filled with gratitude. Find out who that girl is, one bodyguard growled. We can't let the press discover a tramp donated street blood to the CEO. Another sneered. Filthy. She probably carries diseases. If anyone asks, we'll say the paramedics succeeded. No one needs to know she touched him. Mai's hands curled into fists. She had poured her very life into this stranger, and all they could talk about was hiding her existence. The door banged open, and a nurse stepped in, flanked by 2 suited men. You're awake, the nurse said gently. But you need to leave now. For your own safety. For my safety? Or his reputation? Mai's voice was hoarse, but sharp. The taller bodyguard's lip curled. You're nothing. You did what you did, but now it's time for you to disappear. Take this, and don't ever come back. He tossed a white envelope onto her blanket. Money! Mai stared at it for a long beat. Then, slowly, she picked it up and ripped it in half. Then again. Again, until the pieces rained onto the sterile floor. The nurse gasped. The bodyguard stiffened. Her voice, though weak, rang out. You think you can buy me? I didn't save him for this. I didn't give my blood, so you could bury me in silence. He lives because of me, and I will not let you erase that truth. The room stilled. Even the monitors beyond the glass seemed to pause. From the bed, a sound stirred. A low groan. The billionaire himself shifted, eyelids flickering open. Adrian Kane blinked against the harsh lights, his vision swimming, but the first thing he saw was her. Standing barefoot on the cold tile, trembling yet unbroken, her shredded sleeve revealing the taped mark of sacrifice on her arm. What? His voice cracked, dry and gravelly. What's happening? The bodyguards rushed to his side. Sir, you're safe. You don't need to. No, his hand, weak but commanding, lifted. His gaze didn't leave the girl. Her. Mai froze. Their eyes locked again, just as they had on the street, when he'd been fading into death. This time, he was alive enough to feel the heat of it. One bodyguard sputtered. She's irrelevant. A street girl. She shouldn't even be. Get out. Adrian's tone cut like a blade. Soft but merciless. All of you. Out. The nurse fled first. The bodyguards, unwilling but unable to disobey, followed. The door slammed shut, leaving only silence. Now it was just the 2 of them. Mai's chest heaved. She wanted to speak, to curse, to walk out herself. But he beat her to it. You, his words were ragged. You saved me? Yes, she whispered, anger flooding her trembling frame. Because no one else would. A silence fell, not empty, but heavy, pulsing with something unspoken. Adrian studied her. A girl in torn clothes, exhaustion written into every line of her face, yet she radiated a defiance that clawed at something inside him. Something that boardrooms, enemies, even lovers had never touched. He almost smiled. Almost. You're reckless. And you're alive, she shot back. For the first time in years, Adrian Kane had no reply. The beeping of the monitor filled the void, sharp as a metronome to their locked stare. Finally, Mai turned toward the door. I didn't do it for you. Remember that. But just as her hand touched the handle, his voice rasped behind her, low, steady, dangerous in its certainty. You gave me your blood. That means you belong to me now. She froze, her heart slamming against her ribs. He wasn't thanking her. He was claiming her. Mai stormed out of the hospital room, her bare feet slapping against the cold marble floor. His words echoed in her skull like a curse. You belong to me now. Her pulse raced. Who did he think he was? Just because she had saved him didn't mean he owned her. She had lived her whole life invisible, nameless, untouchable by the rich who ruled the city. She had given him blood, not her soul. But behind her, Adrian Kane lay awake for the first time in days, and the image of her leaving burned into him with savage intensity. 2 days later, Mai tried to slip back into anonymity. She returned to the underpass she called home, clutching the threadbare blanket that had once been her only shield against the night. The city roared above, indifferent as ever. But she was not invisible anymore. Headlights swept across the shadows. A black car purred to a halt at the curb. Suited men stepped out. "Miss Mai," one said, bowing slightly. "Mr. Kane requests your presence." She froze, clutching her blanket tighter. "Tell your Mr. Kane, I don't take orders." The bodyguard's jaw tightened. "Please don't make this difficult." Her heart thudded, but before she could run, the rear door opened. Adrian himself stepped out, pale from his injuries, but radiating authority that bent the night around him. His storm-gray eyes locked onto hers, hungry and unrelenting. The world fell away. "You disappeared," he said softly, almost accusingly. "You should have let me," she spat back. He studied her, the ragged hoodie, the stubborn fire in her gaze, the way she clutched that torn blanket like armor. She was nothing like the jeweled women who usually hovered around him. And yet, she was the only one whose blood now ran in his veins. "Get in the car," he said. Not as an order, but as inevitability. "No." The bodyguards exchanged uneasy glances. No one said no to Adrian Kane. Ever. But Adrian's lips curved, not in anger, but in something darker. Intrigue. "You think you can walk away after binding me to you? Every breath I take now carries you in it." Her stomach flipped. She hated the way his words wrapped around her, dangerous and intoxicating. She turned to leave. He caught her wrist. Not hard, but enough. His touch burned, not with violence, but with claim. "Don't run from me, Mai." His voice dropped to a husky murmur. "I don't chase. But for you." His breath brushed her ear. "I might." She jerked free, trembling. "I'm not a thing you can own. I saved you because no one else would. That's all." He studied her for a long moment. Then, to her shock, he laughed low, rough, and used. "You're the first person to ever tell me no. Do you realize that?" She didn't answer. He stepped closer, his eyes burning into hers. "And now I can't stop thinking about it." The air crackled. Mai's chest rose and fell rapidly. For a fleeting, terrifying second, she felt it too, the pull. The invisible chain forged from blood and defiance. "Stay away from me," she whispered, though her voice lacked conviction. Adrian's gaze softened, just slightly. "Impossible." The silence stretched. The bodyguard stood frozen, as though watching an alternate universe unfold before their eyes. Finally, Adrian stepped back, slipping into his car without breaking eye contact. The door shut with a final click. "Follow her," he ordered. The car pulled away, but Mai's knees nearly buckled. She wasn't free. She wasn't invisible anymore. And deep inside, some reckless part of her feared and craved what it meant to be seen by Adrian Kane. Rain hammered against the glass walls of Adrian's penthouse like fists demanding entry. The city sprawled below in jeweled lights, but inside, the air was thick with silence. Mai stood by the window, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. She shouldn't be here. She should have walked away the second his car followed her. Yet here she was, a homeless girl in a palace of marble and steel. Behind her, Adrian poured himself a glass of whiskey, his movements precise despite the bandage still peeking from under his shirt. "You've been avoiding me," he said, his tone deceptively casual. "I don't belong here." "You belong wherever I decide," he countered smoothly, taking a sip. She whirled around, fury sparking. "You think blood makes me your property? That I should be grateful you've dragged me into this world of glass and lies." For a moment his mask slipped. His eyes darkened, not with anger, with something deeper. Fear, maybe. Loneliness. Then it was gone, hidden beneath his usual steel. "Sit," he ordered.
No.
Before he could reply, voices filtered in from the hallway. Muffled, urgent. Mai stiffened. She shouldn't hear this, but the door hadn't fully shut. The crash wasn't an accident, a man's voice whispered. The brakes were tampered with. Someone inside the board wants him dead. Mai's blood ran cold. Another voice hissed, "Keep it quiet. If Kane finds out who, there'll be war in the company." Her heart pounded. She stepped back, but her heel caught the edge of a rug. A soft thud echoed. The voices outside halted. Then footsteps. The door slammed open. Two men in suits froze at the sight of her. "Who is she?" one snarled. Before she could stammer an excuse, Adrian's voice sliced through the tension. "She's the reason I'm still breathing. And she hears what I hear." The men paled. One muttered an apology and fled. The other stammered, "Sir, it was nothing." "Leave," Adrian commanded. His gaze didn't waver until the man disappeared. Now it was just them again, but the air was heavier than before. Mai's pulse raced. "They try to kill you." Adrian didn't answer immediately. He set down his glass, his hand trembling ever so slightly. "I suspected." "You suspected?" Her voice cracked. "And you didn't say anything? You nearly died." He looked at her then, really looked. "I've lived with enemies my whole life. Betrayal is nothing new." But that night, his gaze flicked to her arm, where the faint bruise from the force still lingered. That was new. Her breath hitched. "You shouldn't know this," he continued, stepping closer. "The more you do, the more danger you're in. I was in danger the moment I gave you my blood." Silence.
Charged.
Intimate. His jaw clenched, torn between warning her away and pulling her closer. "Why do you care?" she demanded, her voice shaking. "Why drag me into your war when I never asked to be part of it?" "Because I can't let you go." The words came out raw, unpolished, as if ripped straight from his chest. Her heart faltered. She hated him, his arrogance, his control. But the naked truth in his voice unsettled her. For a moment, the storm outside seemed to pause, waiting. Then the elevator chimed. The doors slid open. A woman stepped out, tall, sleek, draped in diamonds. Her lips curled into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Adrian," she purred. "I heard you cheated death." "And who?" Her gaze slashed to Mai, dripping venom. "Is this?" Mai's stomach dropped. The air in the penthouse shifted, colder, sharper. Whoever this woman was, she wasn't just a guest. She was part of the secret, and she had just marked Mai as her target. "You didn't answer me," the woman said, her voice smooth as silk but sharp enough to cut glass. "Who is she?" Mai's pulse thundered. She wanted to vanish, to slip back to the shadows where she belonged. But Adrian moved first. "She's with me." 3 words. Simple. Final. But the weight of them filled the room like a storm. The woman arched a perfectly sculpted brow. "With you?" Her gaze raked over Mai. The borrowed clothes, the bare feet curled against the rug. The rawness of someone who didn't fit. "Adrian, really? Have your standards dropped so low?" Mai flinched, heat burning her cheeks. But Adrian's jaw tightened. "Careful, Alara."
Ah.
A name. Alara. The way she prowled across the room made it clear she wasn't just a visitor. She was someone with history, someone who thought she still belonged here. Alara's smile widened. "Don't tell me this stray is the reason you've been ignoring your board, your investors, your allies." She tilted her head. "Because if so, they'll eat her alive." Mai's heart twisted. She knew Alara was right. She wasn't built for this world. Yet before she could retreat, Adrian stepped closer, placing himself between them like a shield. "She saved my life," he said, his voice low, deadly. "She is not to be touched." For a flicker of a second, Alara's composure cracked. Jealousy, sharp, vicious, flashed in her eyes. Then it vanished beneath a polished laugh. "Oh, Adrian," she said sweetly, "you always did confuse gratitude with affection. Don't worry. She won't last long. They never do." The words struck Mai harder than expected. They never do. Was she just another temporary shadow in Adrian Kane's life? Alara swept out with the elegance of a queen leaving a conquered court. The elevator doors closed behind her, sealing in silence. Mai finally spoke, her voice unsteady. What did she mean? Adrian turned to her, his face unreadable. Nothing worth repeating. Don't lie to me. Her fists clenched at her sides. I'm not stupid. She knows you. Knows this world. And she's right. I don't belong here. I can't fight people like her. Then don't. His eyes softened, almost pleading. Let me do the fighting. The vulnerability in his voice nearly undid her. Nearly. But fear tightened its grip on her chest. You don't understand, she whispered. I've been invisible all my life. No one noticed me, no one cared. But now, her throat closed around the words. Now your enemies will see me as your weakness. And they'll come for me. Adrian stepped closer. She felt the heat of him, the steadiness he carried like armor. Then let them try. His voice was fierce, a vow edged with steel. They'll learn what it means to touch what's mine. Her breath caught. Mine. She should have been angry. Should have shoved him away. But the look in his eyes, a rare crack in the fortress he'd built, told her this wasn't about possession. It was about fear. Fear of losing her. Before she could reply, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and his expression darkened. What is it? She asked. His grip tightened around the device. The board is calling an emergency meeting. Tonight. Because of you? Because of us. His gaze locked on hers, grim. They know you exist now. And they'll use it. The air thickened, the weight of inevitability pressing down. For the first time, Mai realized this wasn't just about survival anymore. It was war. Adrian exhaled slowly, a decision hardening in his eyes. Come with me. If they want to see you, then let them see. Not as a weakness. He reached for her hand, his touch burning and electric. But as the reason I'm still here. Mai's heart pounded so hard it hurt. To step into his world meant painting a target on her back. But the way he held her hand, as if it anchored him to life itself, left her with only one choice. She nodded. Then let's show them. Adrian's lips curved, not into a smile, but something sharper. A declaration of war. The city lights flared outside the penthouse windows, thunder rolling in the distance like drums. Somewhere in the shadows, Alara was smiling too.
And waiting.
The elevator doors opened onto a chamber of glass and steel. The Kane Industries boardroom glowed cold under fluorescent lights, the city skylines stretching endless behind it. Power hung in the air like smoke. Mai's hand trembled in Adrian's, but he didn't let go. His stride was deliberate, commanding, even as whispers rippled around the polished table. She's the girl, someone hissed. A vagrant, another muttered. He's lost his mind. Adrian stopped at the head of the table, dragging Mai gently forward. This is Maya, he said flatly. His voice carried like a gavel. The reason I'm alive. The reason this company still has a CEO. A scoff echoed from the far end. A man in a navy suit leaned forward, eyes gleaming with malice. Victor Crane, Adrian's oldest rival. Adrian, Victor said smoothly, we all know you've been unwell since your accident. No one doubts your gratitude toward this girl. But gratitude doesn't run corporations. She's not one of us. She's a liability. All eyes turned to Mai, dissecting her like vultures. Shame burned her skin. She wanted to vanish. But Adrian's thumb brushed her knuckles, steadying her. Liability. Adrian's voice sharpened. Without her, I'd be dead in the ground. Without her blood in my veins, this empire would already be yours to dismantle. The board shifted uneasily. No one spoke of his collapse so bluntly. Victor smiled like a shark. Perhaps that was fate's intention. Gasps scattered the room. Adrian's gaze went lethal. Careful. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then, unexpectedly, Mai stepped forward. Her voice wavered at first, but grew steadier with each word. I know I don't belong here. I'm not rich. I don't wear diamonds. I don't have a name people recognize. But when he was dying, none of you were there. You talk about liability, Her eyes swept across the table. But the only reason you're still earning your millions is because I chose to stay when you all turned your backs. The words cracked the room open. For the first time, they looked at her not as dirt beneath their shoes, but as the girl who had done what their billions could not. Victor's smile faltered. Touching, he sneered. But board seats aren't earned with tears. Adrian, you're reckless. You drag in a nobody and expect us to bow. That's not leadership. It's desperation. Adrian slammed his hand down on the table. The sound echoed like thunder. Desperation?
No.
This is clarity. For too long, men like you have fed on loyalty without giving it. Maya has given me more than any of you ever have. From this day forward, anyone who questions her place questions me. Gasps filled the air. The declaration wasn't just personal, it was war. Victor's eyes glinted with rage. Then you've signed your own downfall. He rose, slamming a file onto the table. Photographs spilled out. My blurred shots of her sleeping in alleys, begging for food. Her shame exposed. The board erupted in whispers. My froze. The ground tilted beneath her. Every scar, every night of hunger, every humiliation, weaponized against her in one cruel display. But before the panic could swallow her, Adrian's hand closed over hers. His voice cut through the chaos. Look at her. He held up one of the photos, forcing the board to see. This is what survival looks like. This is what strength looks like. While you hide behind glass towers, she bleeds, she fights, and she saves lives. You call her weak? You couldn't last a day in her world. The silence that followed was electric. Even Victor faltered under the raw conviction in his tone. Then Adrian leaned down, his lips near Maya's ear. His words were only for her. They can't touch you. Not while I breathe. Tears burned her eyes. Not of shame this time, but of something fiercer. Resolve.
She squeezed his hand back.
For the first time, she felt not like a shadow dragged into his war, but his equal in it. Victor's voice finally broke the silence, bitter and trembling. This isn't over. No, Adrian agreed coldly, sliding the photos back into the file. It's just beginning. He wrapped his arm around Mai, pulling her close, and faced the board with a look that promised fire. Meeting adjourned. The doors slammed behind them as thunder rolled outside the glass tower, the city lights burning like watchful eyes. Mai exhaled, her body shaking. Adrian, they'll never forgive this. He looked down at her, eyes fierce yet vulnerable. Then let them come. I'd rather lose everything than lose you. The words hit her like lightning, both a vow and a warning. For in that moment, she knew, their enemies wouldn't stop. And neither could their hearts.